Hi, Randy the Mobile Home Guy here again today. Today we're dealing with a DGAT furnace. We've actually got it out of the home and it's in our shop here. So we're going to do a few different videos today. One of the videos we're doing is how to remove and look at and replace the blower motor in a DGAT furnace. Now we're going to tear this whole thing down. We're going to do a video on that tear down, and we're going to do each individual part on that so that you can kind of specialize on what you'd want to watch. But if you're interested, we're going to tear this down all the way, even so much so that you can see the heat exchanger, open that heat exchanger up and see that. So there's another videos that we're posting about that. So if you're interested in that, but today on this particular video we're just dealing with the blower motor and how to do that in a DGAT furnace. Okay, so here we are dealing with a DGAT furnace. Of course, we have our model number down here, which can tell us that is a DGAT. Right beside it, of course, is the serial number, which tells you the date. This one says it starts with the first four of the serial number. So this one says 9811. So that just probably means it got out into the market in 99 because it was built in 1198. So November 98 it was built. So we're just going to remove this blower unit, pull the motor out, see what that looks like. And of course we're not putting in a new one. We're just kind of doing this as an instructional video on how to get it out. So we're going to put the old one back in just to kind of show you how to reverse engineer that. So really this whole furnace can be torn down with a 5/16 tip on your screwdriver there. So one of the first things you want to do, of course, is turn the power off. We have a little power switch here. We'll turn that off. And then we're going to disconnect the cord right here so we can pull this out like that. See, we have two little clips we just kind of push in and pull right out. It doesn't matter. It's going to only go back in one way. So if I couldn't put it in that way or that way, it's only going to go in like it came out. Okay, and so we can see we're going to remove this screw here because it has a little tag on there and a little one right here. And these two screws and this thing will pull right out. Now some of this times this unit has a little deluxe blend air system. It has two little screws right here and a box right here. We would just remove those two screws and set that over to the side, and it has some wires coming down here, and a lot of times it comes through, those wires come through here. So we're just going to take this little, and again it's 5/16. Okay, and this comes out, and at this time we can take this little clip right off, and it probably is going to hold a bunch of wires if you do have that little system there. So, and then there's one right here. Sometimes on this furnace, this is Phillips. They did some of them where all these screws were all Phillips screws. So it's either a Phillips head or a 5/16. Okay, and then we're going to have this here. Missed one there. Okay, and we're going to set this over here. And then we're just going to grab the cord, and this thing just pulls right out there. We can see it right here. We'll set it over to the side. And we can see this little rail right here. This rail right here actually just slides right in right there. So on both sides you can see that those just slide right in there and hits and holds in that back there. So we'll go back over here to the little table, and what we're going to do, we're going to start taking this apart. So one of the things you're going to want to do, I like to stand it up here. And you're going to loosen this nut right there. Okay. And what I'll do here, a little bit of myself, is right when I'm here, I will turn it on its side like this, and I will squirt a little WD-40 right inside of here, right inside of there, like that. And then I will take my wrench and hold it on the flat spot of there, and I will turn that just to get some of that WD-40 right inside of there. Okay, and then I will turn it around. Okay, and so these screws right here sometimes are different. Sometimes they're a Phillips, sometimes people have used whatever screw is in there. But so these particular ones right here are a 3/8. First off though, there's a ground wire, so you just want to, that's a 7/16. We'll just pull that off of there. We'll switch out our bit here into a 3/8, okay? And a lot of times, so this one has a washer right there. You want to make sure that these washers don't go away. This particular one is kind of nice because it has a little piece on there that holds it in tight, but sometimes this is just a little washer. So on these ones we can leave those in there, but sometimes take this off with the washer. Okay, so we'll hope that this one comes out really easy for us. So sometimes we can kind of pull right here. We can pull hard up. And if we've done our job really well with that WD-40, then it's going to really come out. So it looks like that one came out really nice. But let's look and see if one didn't come out really nice. Say for instance, say it's on here and it's not coming out at all. So I do have this trusty tool right here. I got a good neighbor, Edward. Not everyone has a good neighbor named Edward though, but he got me this tool right here. You can see this fits right on top of here. And then you screw these pieces on, you hold here, and that just screws right off. Beautiful tool. Every contractor should have one of these tools, but not everyone has a great neighbor, Edward, that can give them one of those. So the one thing you do not want to do, absolutely do not want to do not hit the tip of that. Don't hit it with a hammer, don't hit it like that because you'll mushroom that out, of course. So what you want to do is you can hit it with a punch right in the center, but you're going to want to elevate this here. You're going to want to elevate this off the ground a little bit, off the bench, and then you can hit that with a hammer with a right in the center with if you have the punch, and sometimes that'll come out right there. And then you kind of just hit it hard like that and it'll come out. We're going to set this piece over to the side. And now we have the unit here. This here is the blower motor, and this here is the belly band or the bracket. So we need to get this bracket out of course. So this here is a 5/16. We'll switch that back out. And then we're just going to hold the nut at the bottom. Sometimes easy, sometimes not so easy. Okay, then we'll just turn it and it'll come right out. So this we're going to save, okay, and hopefully we've gotten the exact same one. Now, one of the main problems with blower motors is that some contractor 10 years ago replaced this motor and they just threw one on that they had in the truck, but this motor didn't fit the existing bracket. So this is the bracket from the factory here that it came with. So the motor of this design will go right back in there, right back in the furnace. But say for instance they've thrown the bracket away because they had a bigger motor. Now we're dealing with a bigger bracket. So if we say my model number is DGAT 070 and I'm trying to get that motor should be right here, you can see 7966311, and it should maybe be a P on there. So 7966311P is most common the motor for a lot of the DGATs. Now if you have AC, it'll be a different one. It'll have a 2-speed motor, something to that effect. So that's how we get it out. We're going to want to put that right back together. So say we had the new motor, so we're going to simulate having the new motor. Now we just do that all in reverse. So we're just going to be able to put this all back on there. And see, we want to put it so that it's kind of right in the middle there. See, we don't want to put it too far out because the shaft's not long enough, or too far in there. Right there in the middle. Now we want to crank it down pretty tight, but we don't want to break these bolts in the process, obviously. And I know it's kind of, that doesn't help tell you exactly how tight it can be. I like to err on the side of caution until we can kind of go here. My good test is it doesn't push down there. So that, because if this pushes back down, obviously it's going to be a little bit harder to, if this shaft ain't going to reach where we need it to. So we'll get that shroud back. Okay, we're going to put this side down like this. So the same side that the motor goes into. The real hard part of this, obviously, most of the time, is to get these not the holes lined up, but to get them kind of. The new motor sometimes moves those feet around a little bit. Okay. So. And these should go, let me switch out my bit again. Back to the 3/8 here. Okay. Sometimes you got to fight to find find the holes. I know it's kind of a pain. Sometimes if I can't find them a little bit, I'll get a little wedge in here and push over until it gets right on top of the thing. And you can see that this one came out even though it's a deep one. Okay, and we'll try and push that right on top of there. Okay, we'll switch it out one more time because we have to re-hook up the ground screw there. Getting closer here. That always happens, doesn't it? So let's put it in the wire first. And it goes off there, and you can re-drill a new hole if it's, you don't, some of the motors will tell you which is the top and which is the bottom, so obviously top of the shroud there. So we'll turn this back over. And so sometimes this happens to where the screw isn't on the flat spot, so you'll just kind of grab it a little bit gently, move it over like that. At this point I like to stand it up, and I can move this in and out as far as I want. I'll give it a little kind of a snug tight there. Just want to make sure that it's not going to hit the wall. All right, looks like we did a good job on that. We're just going to back it up and push those back in. We're just going to make sure to hit all three of those on both sides. And there we go. We're just going to tighten those screws back on and we'll be all done. If you do have a DGAT furnace, a DGAT, and then a few letters, obviously, and numbers afterwards, just talking about the size of the furnace, BTUs, and those kinds of things, it's mostly affecting, I'm talking about the recall, it's mostly affecting the 70s and the 75s. But check this right here, dgatprogram.com, or call this number right here with option 1. If you're a contractor, 6 after that, so option 1 and then 6. This will talk to you a little bit about what they what they have available and kind of what they're going to do for you. What they're really doing is they're not sending, if you can find a contractor that will come out and inspect your furnace, they will give you $100 towards replacement. But there's some other things you might want to learn about your furnace, why it needs to look at, and that it does need looked at, and hopefully it's great. But it does need looked at, and they are paying contractors to come out and look at those. So use up these numbers if you have a DGAT furnace. So here's the recall, the DGTA program, DGTA, DGAT. Okay, so if you do have, hi, we're gonna, okay, so actually, let's start over with that one.